Welcome, fight fans. We have a special show for all of you today because we are wrapping up UFC's 2024 calendar, and all we want for Christmas is another cycle parlay to cash. Of course, welcome into the Matty Betts preview show. I got my guy, Matty Betts, aka Matt Tanner, the man, the myth, the long shot legend. My name's Austin Swaim. I'm a senior editor for FanDuel Research. Hopefully you guys, as longtime listeners of the show, or new listeners of the show, will come to know us as well. We go preview every one of the 13 fights here for UFC Tampa, which is a live show. Love that we get a live show instead of an Apex to round it out. And we've got some pretty big names on this card as fighters trying to get in one more paycheck before the holidays. So fresh off a trip to Vegas for UFC 310 and on the way to a trip to UFC Tampa is one of MMA social media's most iconic sports bettors, Matt Tanner. I got to bring him in and ask him my question that I always ask him. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, bro. I'm at Resorts World right now here in Las Vegas. About to hop on a plane right to Tampa in 3 hours. I was supposed to go back home and then drive to Tampa because I'm 3 hours from Tampa. I was like, I'm just going to extend my Vegas trip and then fly right to Tampa, so I'm not even going home.
So what's the laundry situation? You got laundry all taken care of before you're going?
I'm still out of clothes, so I'm gonna fly into Tampa and see if someone can come do my laundry. Anyone that's watching, if you live in Tampa, I'll pay $250. Come pick up my laundry, clean it, and bring it back.
That could be a story of a lifetime from someone watching this.
A casino host or someone can help me out, but I got literally next to no clothes right now, bro. I'm down bad.
Yeah, that's okay. We can do laundry. What we really want to make sure we focus in on is getting some of these picks right this weekend. How I know certainly from your straight bet perspective, you gave out Chase Hill for submission last week. You gave out Bryce Mitchell inside the distance. Both of those early plays ended up cashing for everybody on your social media. But how did UFC 310 go for you? Even though the cycle did come up short. Sorry, guys. We can't hit a 70-1 parlay every single week. It's an unfortunate reality what we're doing, but
we'd be living good if we could.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, the card went well. I mean, it's funny because everyone thinks that if I don't hit a parlay, everyone assumes that I'm just down horrendous. I did very well in the Pantoja fight. I had his money line. I had him inside the distance for a big bet, and then I had his submission. I should have went round 2 submissions. I even talked about that with Gilbert. But we hit Pantoja, a big bet on inside the distance, hit a big bet on him by submission. Smacked a huge bet on Luque. I made like 13, 14K on Luque, round 1 sub. Early prelims I didn't do so hot, but main card I did great. Bryce Mitchell inside the distance. I should have just played the knockout. I know you told me that. You were right. But he finally, Gracie just kept pulling guard and like grabbing onto him. He finally was like, instead of trying to push him away, he just slams into the ground and elbows him, bro. I was so hyped for that because that was a 2-unit play for me at plus 260. I mean, that covers 5 1-unit losses right there on that win, so that was a huge play. So I hit a lot of good straight bets, a lot of good plus money across the board. Was close on a few long shot parlays, couldn't get there. I had the Luque sub parlayed with, I believe it was Durden sub, and I lost that. And then I had obviously Chiesa almost did it for us to get us to the last leg. He looked great. I think it was a perfect read, Chiesa decision, and then Griffin gives up his first submission of his career, so that one was a little rough. But I thought it was an entertaining card, good card overall. I made some money. I lost the long shot parlays, but you can't hit them every week.
Yep. If we could throw up that comment from Olajuwon, exact same place my card flipped. Volkov, Aljo, and Randy Brown, a new term that I'm going to use on here, value losers. Cyril Gahn didn't really cover his betting number. Way in a tight fight. Randy Brown against Battle really could have gone either way in a split decision. Ended up 0-3 on those. But my guy, JJ, the Octagon Kings, who works behind the scenes with our show, was like, it all evens out in the long run. I gave back some of my Juliana Pena coin from that ridiculous decision I got against Pennington. It does kind of come and go. But I felt like it was a good card for me as well. reads felt good, and so we're headed into Tampa with momentum. And I wasn't able to model quite as many fights on this card, but I am interested to see what you think of some of the results I got, because I actually made a tweak in my model this week. I think one of the mistakes I made last week that I wanted to get corrected was I did not put enough recent stock in some of Lucas Brzeski's knockout issues, and I actually ratcheted up in my model this week a touch the opposing fighter tendencies. So what I mean by that is Brzeski had been losing by knockout a lot recently. I think I undersold the chin issues. So another place where maybe I think, remember when we were talking about Tim Means and Court McGee? We were talking about Tim Means is always losing by submission.
Yeah.
I didn't have a value showing on that McGee sub that we actually ended up taking and cashing. So I kind of wanted to make that tweak, and those are the tweaks I'm making in my model all the time. So I'm excited to see how they do here in Tampa, and if we're a little bit more in line with what odds makers are thinking. So why don't we dive into the fights here? We got 13 of them, 11 in the men's divisions, 2 in the women's divisions. We didn't have very many women's fights, if at all, last week. So we'll start out with one here at women's strawweight. I actually like this fight from a betting perspective. 2 of the better prospects outside the rankings at 115. Josephine Knuttson coming off a split decision win over Julia Pilastri, and then Piera Rodriguez. Funny enough, she was disqualified in her last bout. I don't remember who she was facing, but it was the headbutt on the ground, and it was Ariane Carnelosi ended up taking the easy way out of that one from a headbutt on the ground with a 10 out of 10 acting job. But Rodriguez, a sizable underdog, plus 190, Knuttson minus 250. Fight overwhelmingly likely to go the distance, as you might expect in this division, Maddie. So you like one of these girls more than the other? When you look at the betting line, what are your first impressions here?
Yeah, I like Josephine. I think she's a good favorite here. I like her volume on the feet. I've liked her last 2 or 3 performances. She's winning unanimous decisions pretty much every fight in the UFC so far. I think we'll see. It's been 4 straight unanimous decisions. I think we'll probably see a 5th one here. I don't know that she'll get this girl out of there or not, but I like her. I think she's a good favorite at minus 250. I don't even think that's that expensive to me.
I like Rodriguez on the other side, which might kind of explain a little bit of the price here. I think it really all comes down to Knuttson's last fight against Pilastri. She had issues defending takedowns. She was actually caught in a submission attempt in the second round in that fight. And really, that's what it comes down to. I'll say this about a couple other fights to come this weekend, but 57% takedown defense for Knuttson's not very good. And Piera Rodriguez has been really good with her takedowns. She got him against Kay Hansen. She got him against Ariane Carnelosi. She was submitted, really her one true undisputed UFC loss was the Jillian Robertson submission in the second round. But you and I love Robertson. I think she's a dog.
Yeah.
So Rodriguez is someone that in general I've been trying to buy. She took Sam Hughes down 5 times, had the cardio to match her there. I think plus 190 is a good number on Robertson, but you look at the decision layout as far as the props when we get into FanDuel and look at the difference. Knuttson points is minus 145. Rodriguez points is plus 330. I think it's going to be way closer than that. So I think by principle, I got to take a stab at Rodriguez by decision here.
Fair. Yeah, I don't have much more on this fight.
Yeah.
I do like the favorite, but it's not something
yeah.
to play.
When we go into the off season, and some of the stuff that I do is I take all of the data that we collected throughout the year. The thing I'm going to have right front of mind is I want to see how women's favorites are doing versus underdogs. It used to be, it felt like you could always take the women's underdog, right? Especially at a number as big as this. I feel like favorites are performing much better this year than they have historically. So maybe that'll be something that we can take into our show next year and have a good idea of which side of these fights maybe ends up being the value side. How do you feel about Knuttson decision minus 145?
Yeah, I was just looking at that. It's still not, that doesn't feel like the greatest number either. But again, she's 4-0 and 4 straight UFC decisions. So
yeah,
I get it. Yeah, her KO is plus 850.
She had a huge advantage over Martic Man, didn't finish her. I agree with you about the volume on the feet. And if Rodriguez can't keep up, if she gasses out a little bit, maybe you look at like a 2-3 KO. So I think that it's interesting that those angles more so maybe than a prohibitive chalk dart at points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Alrighty, why don't we move on, because we can only spend so much time on that first fight. Last week, someone in the comments laughed because we spent like 10 minutes on Nzechukwu Brzeski. We should probably keep moving through these early prelims a little faster.
By the way, in Nzechukwu, I really believe that he's going to get us some subs in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I agree too. We've seen him do it at light heavyweight, and these guys, the skill discrepancy, bro, of a guy that has fought at 205 compared to some of these guys at heavyweight is unbelievable. Kennedy was toying with him. It felt like that entire fight.
For sure, for sure.
And if his chin issues are corrected at heavyweight, are you with me that I think Kennedy could be like a top 15 heavyweight in the world? Like
Yeah,
right now,
yeah,
Shamil
dude.
Gazif's 15, bro.
It's funny. It's funny what you remember what Derek Lewis said. He said someone asked him, he's like, "Could Poatan do well at heavyweight?" He's like, "Almost anyone he can." He's like, "We're all just
Yeah.
fat guys with that have punching power." He's like, "Anyone can move up and have success here." It was hilarious. But I believe about Kennedy, like obviously he can get chin, right? We know
Yep.
that, but I think he can have a lot of success at heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean, you pulled out Poatan by sub in his last fight. I genuinely believe Alex Pereira might be a plus grappler at heavyweight from all the time he spent
He
with
is
with
100%.
Glover, dude. It's
100%.
just it's crazy the skill discrepancy. But skilled guys are on deck in this next fight that we're going to talk about here, and this line has closed to a point where it's very interesting. It is a pick'em right now, and that was not the case earlier this week. Ramon Taveras taking on Davey Grant. Ramon is the Florida guy here, so he's getting to fight in front of his home crowd. But dangerous Davey Grant, a guy that I've certainly backed quite a bit in UFC. Who could forget that that knee bar against Rafael Assunção in the third round to pull one out of come from behind fashion. He fought Daniel Marcos in his last fight. Close decision, didn't go his way. So a
Yeah.
veteran of this division that's kind of fought the who's who against a guy coming off the contender series, just starting to build. So this line is moved toward Grant. Do you think that's appropriate, or maybe do you think you want to buy low on Ramon here?
I kind of like a buy low spot on Ramon. This is another fight that I'm not running to the counter to bet on though. I don't think I don't think I'll have anything on that first fight. Maybe you can sell me on a play on this second one, but I think this line spot on though. I think this is a straight pick 'em type fight. I can see it going the distance and being a split decision one way or the other.
Yeah, I had this typed out in the Discord ready to give out Taveras minus 135, and something in me pulled back and said maybe I'll just wait because I saw Clint come in with a play on Davey Grant. I'm like, maybe the market's gonna move here. And I'm so glad I didn't end up playing that because I love Ramon Taveras in this spot, and now I'm getting a better number by the hour.
Mm,
Um the thing about Davey is that I feel like he's a little bit of a slugfest type of guy. He's not always the
yeah,
most defensively responsible. We saw him get Jonathan Martinez, a guy who's a little bit chinny, and that's a very good win on his resume. Split decision loss to Adrian Yanez isn't great. But it always feels like Davey's in these close back and forth battles. But now the issue is he's 38. He's coming off a neck surgery. And Ramon Taveras is a guy that we've said his name a few times in passing on this show. Surrey City fought in Canada last month. I'm like, I really believe in this guy's hands. I think he's almost like a mini Masvidal, bro, where the swagger, the hand speed, there's a little bit of power there. He got chinned on the contender series in his first time out against Cortavius Romeus, so that loss hasn't aged particularly well. I also thought it was a bit unlucky and fluky. I really like Taveras' skills. And he's got a 65% takedown or striking defense so far. That would be top 10 percentile in this division. 100% takedown defense. Nobody's taking him down. So Davey, not the most efficient wrestler. I don't actually know if he gets a takedown in this fight. So I like Ramon, and I'm just going to keep waiting for a better and better number, I think, as people flock to the number.
yeah. No, if we can get him at like even money, I'm all in on that.
Yeah.
I think it's a very close fight, but I do like Ramon here, the younger guy, and also Davey Grant loses a lot of close decisions. You know, Ramon hasn't been in a lot of fights that have gone the distance, but he is 2-0 in those outcomes. So I
Mhm.
just think he can do just enough if it does go the distance.
Yeah, I'm looking. I don't think. Okay, so Davey's been submitted 3 times in UFC. That's not an issue here against Taveras. Taveras is really a boxer. I think it's the one thing that he does. The question is, I don't even know how I feel about Taveras. Points is plus 320, knockout is plus 330. So odds makers are saying it's right about even whether he finishes him or not. I tend to lean decision at that regard, but I tend to do that a lot. It's kind of like betting the under in a football game. Is that a lot of people bet violence by default. Taveras didn't drop City in his last fight. I think that Davey is a guy that's tough. He's durable. He's never been KO'd by a lot of tough competition. Even at 38, I'm kind of leaning this one goes the distance.
Yeah, I like it.
We got a comment in chat from my guy Pepe, Pepe Sylvia. He's on Twitter as well. Taveras better boxer than Yanez. I don't know. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I do feel very strongly about both of those guys' as pure boxing skills. So that's the type of level of boxing that I feel like you get from Taveras in this spot.
Yeah, no, I'm really starting to lean his direction. I'm glad we talked
Yeah.
through that one.
and home crowd advantage. I wonder why the line's moving. Maybe it is just name value. But
Yeah.
why don't we move forward here? Like you said, we don't want to spend a ton of time on the agreed premiums because we want to. I have a feeling we are going to be able to give these guys a cycle today. You and I were talking about it before the show. We kind of feel good about some of the angles with props later in the card.
We
I
haven't
don't know
talked.
if this is
We haven't talked about any specific legs of the cycle before this.
no, but we know each other very well at
Read
this
each other's
point.
minds a little bit, you know.
And I know when I'm kind of going to align with Maddie, I think I'm getting better and better at that. But this is a spot, Maddie. I think the prop market is very interesting because I don't think it's a good idea to lay minus 590 with Miranda Maverick. But you look at the experience level of competition, it kind of makes sense why she's almost a $6 favorite here against Jamey-Lyn Horth. Horth coming off that win in Canada. She got by Ivana Petrovic by split decision. Maverick is much more well known at this point, maybe even for some of her setbacks. She lost to Erin Blanchfield, but she did absolutely maul Jillian Robertson when those two girls fought. She lost to Jasmine Jasdovicius, so really she's losing high level competition. Horth is someone that couldn't even get through Veronica Hardy, so that's why this line sits where it does. Prop market's fascinating here. What are your initial thoughts on this fight before we dive into some of the exact numbers? Because I was stunned. My model even was maybe a little bit wrong or off the market in this spot. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was looking at Maverick inside the distance, which it's a really good number. And
It's
I
plus
was
460 on FanDuel right now.
Yeah, that's a crazy number. And then the sub is 6-1.
Yep.
The knockout on FanDuel is plus 1,700. Is
Wow.
that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, Horth's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I don't know if she's been professionally submitted.
She has it.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy for some ground and
eight,
pound, you know?
had 8 fights in MMA, though, and, like, who's really the best submission artist she's faced, you know? Like,
Yeah. God, her level of competition is awful. So Haley Cowan, we haven't even seen her again. She got by unanimous decision in her debut, lost the Hardy fight, and then Ivana Petrovic. I like her well enough, but I'm also not even sure she won that fight. So it's kind
yeah,
of it sits where it does for a reason. What
right.
what I wanted to get your opinion on here, what blows my mind is Maverick by points is minus 230 here, bro. It is just like an overwhelming presumptive favorite. I just think if it's close enough that it goes the distance, I don't really want a piece of points. I've got Maverick points at minus 200. I thought, man, that's one of the highest props I've ever modeled. And I still came in not showing value respective to the market. So I think at this number, I'd rather lean a dart at inside the distance, frankly.
I agree. No, I agree completely. I mean, this fight I don't think is going to make our cycle lay. But I would lean just a sprinkle, maybe like a quarter unit, half unit on Maverick inside the distance here.
Are you along the same lines of thinking as me that I think relative to number, I'd rather have plus 460 ITD than plus 600 sub?
For sure. For sure.
I just am wary about the submission prop specifically when Horth is a good grappler in her own right. And maybe it is just physical domination. And I'm going to show my age and my nerdism here. Maverick's debut against Liana Jojua, she actually got a doctor stoppage on the feet in that fight. I feel like she's the much better striker here, really powerful athlete. I don't think it's crazy that she could get a distance knockout in this fight, whether it be a TKO or whatever. So 17-1. I don't want to sprinkle that per se, but I do not want to leave it behind with whatever angle I end up taking in this fight.
Yeah. So Maverick by KO in the cycle parlay?
But one of these days we're gonna alienate all of our fans because we're gonna do like 10-1 or longer on all 3 legs of the cycle and watch that be the one that we end up hitting, right?
Yeah. It'd be funny if they could go back like every previous card and be like, what would have been the highest paying cycle parlay? And
now that is content.
That would be sick to look at. Like, think about it. You have to find whatever the highest paying knockout is, the highest paying sub, and the highest paying decision. Yeah. And I don't know, Mike, if you're listening, if we could write a note down of that, I think we should go back and look at some of these cards and just be like, wow, 100 would have paid 12,000, right? Whatever the number is. Like, because dude, it's gonna be crazy. Like, all it takes is one insane knockout upset or one insane submission upset, and you throw that in the cycle lay, and it's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, I love that idea, especially, you got a lot of written content coming to Home of Fight as well. Like, that'd be a good idea to have someone. in my world, at least, there's like perfect DFS lineups, like the best possible DFS fighters you could have chosen for FanDuel or for whichever site you end up playing on. Like a
Yeah.
perfect cycle parlay. I love that idea for just tracking what it could be.
Yeah.
It's
It's also
interesting.
cool to go back and just learn from it,
Yeah, it really is. I think you and I, in general, with the cycle, we tend to play more realistic sorts of outcomes. Like a few
Yeah.
weeks ago, Gabriela Fernandez by sub never would have made the site. Never even would have considered it. Never would have
Right.
gone through that. But you honestly, last week we had the ingredients to make the correct cycle. You liked Cyril Gahn by decision. You liked Bryce Mitchell by knockout, and then there were a couple of subs on the
I
card.
can't believe I didn't put Bryce by knockout in there. That's the thing, bro. Is I keep going back and forth with just to be brutally honest with everyone that's watching. I went back and looked at our cycle leg that hit, right? And there wasn't a single leg that was over plus 300.
Yep.
Right? It was Hamzat by sub. It was Naridov by decision. And it was who was the KO?
Jeff Neal
by KO. And every number was between 2-1 and 3-1, right? At least at Hard Rock where I got it. I think maybe one leg might have been a little over plus 300 on FanDuel or something. But long story short, each leg 2-1, 3-1, right? And now when I build these, I'm like, is it? But it kind of stops me. Like I put Bryce Mitchell by knockout as a 6-1 leg, so it's a huge payout. But how it is, we get people that comment every card. They're like for example, we jump on the show today and someone comments, stop chasing cycle parlays, just stop forcing it. Guys, we hit, you hit one. If we hit one a year, we're up money.
Yep.
People don't understand. So you don't have to bet the cycle lay. Honestly, if you're betting more than you should on a cycle parlay, just bet all 3 legs by straight bets, and you just need to hit one of them, and you probably make a profit.
Mm-hmm. Give me Bryce Mitchell inside the distance. I think a knockout on the feet or maybe 2 ground and pound. It is crazy because Brian Battle by decision is the most likely outcome.
For the winner by split decision, Brian the Push.
You get minus 1,000 guy by the way he wins 90% of the time against the guy he already submitted in grappling at minus 130 to sub him. If it's a trap, you can take my money because I'm hammering it.
He's got it. He got it.
I think Asakura is a little bit overhyped. I like Pantoja by Rear Naked Choke.
Somebody, for the love of God, let Matty cook. He absolutely
has great calls. They don't always translate to a parlay. That's the problem,
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But we just talking through every fight, we had some insane predictions last card. So hopefully we do that again.
Yeah, I mean, we spent so much time contemplating which legs we wanted to put in the cycle, and we were very concerned about. I think the decision leg was our hardest leg last week. Like Chiesa, we kind of thought about it, and then what happens? Max Griffin's 39. He looked exhausted compared to normal, and then he ends up getting subbed in the third.
In a way, though, it almost saved us from the pain of watching Nate the Train get mauled.
Yeah.
Dude. It would have been miserable.
Yeah,
so.
The land where sometimes we are loud wrong, and that is a good example.
Yeah.
But we'll move forward here. Consensus on Maverick. I think if you believe she's a good favorite at this price, you almost have to play inside the distance. Otherwise, how does she cover this number?
Yeah. Another thing that's interesting is considering Jamie's a black. Is she a black belt?
That I believe, yeah, that's what I had in my notes here.
She's a good grappler regardless, black belt or not.
Agreed.
Sure black belt. It's almost like you wonder if you play Maverick double chance KO decision if that number shows value. If you take Maverick KO or on points,
it's going to be like minus 230 or
minus 280. Yeah, so but it's like if you believe that Jamie's good enough defensively on the submissions, then maybe it's worth a dart, So it's not really a dart, but you know what I mean. Let's move on.
Yeah, we got cycle lovers in the chat. We appreciate y'all. And look, at the end of the day, I model exact outcomes. Maddie loves exact outcomes. We're playing cycles. That's what we do around here. So maybe we'll have a leg in this next fight. Maybe not. It is the newest fight on the card at bantamweight. Felipe Lima, boy, did he make quite the impression. He completely upset Muhammad Naimov on short notice, and he's sticking around at 135. I thought he was going to be a flyweight in UFC, but he's going to stay in this division, taking on Miles Chapo Johns, who we lost a couple Apex cards ago. He was supposed to have a co-main with Cody Garbrandt, but now I guess he's going to take on Lima instead. So Lima made some friends and made some fans. He's minus 280 here over a veteran in Johns that's got a lot of UFC wins to his name. what do you think of this fight, Maddie? Because it is a lot to bear about Lima, who did honestly look pretty good in his debut. So
Yeah.
this is one of the tougher ones on the card for me. What do you think about it?
No, it is. I like Miles Johns in general, not necessarily in this fight, but I'm a fan of his. Lima really impressed me putting away Naimov. I did not expect that whatsoever. I mean, Naimov was he was 11-2 before that loss, and I don't think he had ever been subbed, right?
Yeah.
That was his first submission loss. So I really like that performance from Lima, who's now 13-1 professionally. 6 wins by decision, 0 losses. Miles Johns, I believe, is 9-0 in decision. So neither of these guys have lost on the scorecards in their career.
That's weird.
Is that accurate? Let me double check. Let me triple check that.
I know Johns has been a decision menace in UFC.
15-0 in decisions. So maybe a split decision here. I mean, that's pretty crazy, bro. I don't know that we've seen that before. 2 guys that have never lost a decision going up against each other. I mean, I'm sure it happened, but with 15 times that it's gone the distance, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. This is a very difficult fight for me because I don't want to overly penalize Johns because we don't have the benefit of the doubt with him anymore. Like, we saw him get tired and finished against Mario Bautista. We've seen some of the underwhelming performances. God, I could go all the way back to Cole Smith if I wanted, but the fight with Dan Argueta was kind of an ugly, grimy decision. Cody Gibson similarly, but these are all guys with talent. They're especially strong wrestlers, which can create an ugly fight. But I think the word I keep coming back to with Lima here is just speed. I think he's just faster. And that is a hard thing to overcome when it comes to going the distance. And I haven't looked at going the distance in this fight. I imagine it's a big, heavy favorite. It is minus 205. So I honestly don't think that's a terrible number when neither of these guys.
This is not on FanDuel yet, is it?
It is. Yeah, we got props on this guy.
Oh, I'm like scrolling past it. All right, hold on.
Yeah, it's like the 4th fight down from the FanDuel menu, but Lima by points, shortest outcome here, plus 105, and then Johns by points is plus 400. Honestly, I think those numbers are fine for either guy. I just think Lima's the faster, better guy. I think what I'm going to end up playing here is Lima round 3 decision minus 125. I think it's a good number for maybe if John's cardio issues come home to roost, or I get the decision as well, relative to plus 105. So I like Lima round 3 decision minus 125, but I'd understand a dog shot here if you really wanted to take it. I just don't think we can toss this guy in the cycle. I think it's going to be too close.
No. Yeah, I don't like this for the cycle lay, but I think I'm gonna play Lima 2-3 sub here. The numbers are insane.
Really? What are they?
21-1 in round 2, 32-1 in round 3.
Yeah,
I mean, that's ridiculous. And Lima, who just subbed Naimov in round 3, Johns has been subbed in round 3. What? How many fights ago?
Was that round 2 or round 3 that he was subbed?
3. It was an arm triangle against Castaneda. That was in 2022, 2 years ago.
And he gassed in that fight, which is, I think,
a little bit. And if Lima's pace and speed and wears him down, I think the round 3 is live here.
Yeah, I mean, Lima, the way he was able to deal with Naimov's size was very impressive to me because I see him as more of a flyweight, and that's how fast I think he is. And so if he doesn't have any issues with the size and the grappling, and Naimov is a big, strong dude, kind of similar to Johns in that regard, and it's. I feel like his cardio is going to last better. Even if you just look at the round props, round 2, 10-1, round 3, 16-1. So pick your poison as far as a method. I don't hate sub given he showed that tendency in his debut. So I'm glad you're with me on Lima because I had one of the things I circled is Maddie going to try to talk me into John's points for the cycle here, but I just think it's too close. I just think it's too close.
Definitely not going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lima has 3 wins by submission in his career. I don't hate the plus 650 sub either. I mean, I don't think we feel good enough about it, obviously, to put it in the cycle, but I do think that could be a dart as well. He's a rear naked choke, 2 rear naked chokes. I could see him getting it, bro.
Yeah. I mean, this fight's minus 650 to start round 2. I think it's because neither of these dudes has super elite punching power, and they've both shown to be very durable. So I think if you go sub, I'd play round 2, 3, Maddie, instead of just the general sub prop. I think you're paying for round 1 when you don't need to.
I like that.
All righty. We'll run it. Alrighty. So to the next fight on the card here, where one of Maddie's guys.
We're aligned here on the cycles.
Me too. And I was just short of being able to model this guy because Fernando Padilla's sample's not big enough. But it is a fight that's caused a little bit of a stir in the MMA betting community this week. Some strong opinions on both sides, and this number actually inching down a little bit. But Sean Woodson, a guy we've seen a lot so far in UFC. He just beat Alex Caceres by decision in his last fight against a guy in Padilla who made another explosive first-round statement. Luis Pujuelo ended up getting a sub on him in that last fight. So these guys both long, tall for this division. Interesting size matchup here. That's a word I come back to in this fight. But Maddie, what do you think with Woodson being a guy you've historically really liked to back?
I love Sean Woodson. I was actually talking to him today. He's going to come play some tables with me.
Sick.
Tampa, maybe this weekend after the fight. Here's what I'll say. Padilla is a guy that likes to kind of bully guys. You know, he ain't bullying Sean Woodson. He's actually taller and I believe has the bigger reach, right? Yeah, so Sean Woodson. This is like, to me, everyone's on the Padilla side. He's not good defensively. He's big, he's long, he's explosive, he's got power and submission ability, but I think Sean Woodson's his kryptonite, bro. I think he can box him up. I think he's got an 84% takedown defense. I think it's kind of a kryptonite for Fernando here, and this line keeps tightening. So I even told Sean, I'm like, bro, I'm going to keep letting that number get – oh, it's at minus 166. So is it going the wrong direction now?
No, it's going – it's still going down. I knew
it was much higher, but I didn't know if it went down and then came back.
Yeah.
But I think we'll be able to get him like minus 140, minus 130 by Saturday, I'm hoping, and I'm down for that. But if you haven't guessed it, I like Sean Woodson by decision for the cycle lay. I'm praying you like that.
Maddie, I had Sean Woodson by decision highlighted for our cycle parlay, dude. So we might have an angle here. Not a lot of punching power.
Plus 115 is the number.
It's plus 115? Oh, I thought it was plus 150. Let me take a look.
115 right now on FanDuel. Is that scarier? No. I will say he's not. I mean, the knockout is, I think, if Padilla is just reckless.
Yeah.
But I like the decision, bro. Plus 115. It's not the greatest number, so we'll have to decide we want to put it in or not, at the end of the show. But I think we should definitely, mark it down as an option.
My question to anybody betting Padilla in this spot is, did you watch all 15 minutes of that fight with Kyle Nelson? It was really aggravating where Padilla, once the early sort of aura wore off of him, he was tired. He really didn't get anything going at distance, and Kyle Nelson's a guy that I'm still not buying a great deal, even though he had a couple of nice wins before the Garcia fight. And you look at who Padilla's beaten in UFC. He chinned Julian Erosa. Everybody does that. And then Pujuelo hasn't made a UFC appearance other than that. So it's just a big leap of faith for me to believe he's going to beat a guy that's long, that's rangy, that now has a ton of experience. And the thing that why you and I think, have been buying Woodson a little bit, I feel like his grappling has improved so much since his UFC debut, where not only the defense, but we saw him land a bunch of takedowns on Dennis Bazookia. I feel like his submission skills, he's flashed a submission attempt or two, even though he doesn't have one officially yet. You see that on tape. So, I like Woodson by points here. I'm not scared off plus 115 just because I don't think he's got very much finishing upside. So I think you get ostensibly plus 115 on the one way. I think he can win the fight. I've seen some bets on like Padilla decision, no action, so meaning finish only. I get that because Woodson's not a guy that's a huge finisher. Yeah, like I understand that sort of play, but I think most of the time it voids. I think Sean wins by points here.
I mean, Woodson has a nice decision win over Yusuf Salal back in 2021. And then guys he does have the split decision over Charles Jourdain, the unanimous decision over Caceres. I mean, I just think it makes sense here. I think that he's going to be sticking and moving the whole fight.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like Woodson just needs to survive maybe an early storm, and then the gas tank is hugely in his direction. And really, his wrestling defense is so good. I've seen a lot of Padilla sub love this week. He'd have to get the fight to the ground on his own terms. Padilla doesn't have a takedown yet. So how's he going to get the sub?
He's not allowed to gamble with us. With Woodson, we're all gambling since he's fading him.
Like it's a weird fight where both of these guys are usually susceptible to the same things because they're so long, like the leg kicks, the pocket defense. But matching them up against each other, I feel like on the feet at least, I feel like Woodson's just the better version,
Yeah.
right?
I love watching this boxing, bro. I really do.
It's so good. Yeah,
It's so elite.
When you want to talk about maximizing and knowing your range, that's John Wood. Like if you want to talk a guy to fight long and act like it, Woodson fights to every bit of his length. I feel like.
Agreed.
All right,
so Maddie getting a little bit better number, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, we'll see what it comes. I really feel like that's almost a money line ostensibly, but if we go with the decision, there were a couple other decisions I have. Maybe we like the number better for the cycle, but this is definitely was on my short list, so I'm glad we're in agreement here. Okay. So why don't we move forward on to our next fight here? My gosh, UFC gives me these curveballs sometimes here. Michael Johnson at -210. What could possibly go wrong against Ottman Azaitar here? Both of these guys kind of hanging on to the end of the lightweight roster. Good Michael Johnson win in his last fight. Took down Darius Flowers a few times. Was able to get the nod on the scorecards. Azaitar coming off that ugly, quick, decisive loss to Francisco Prado, who I like Prado a lot myself, so I don't want to hold that specific result against him. But, Maddie, these are not the most reliable customers. Maybe kind of shaky chins on both sides, getting up there in age. Odds makers making a little bit of a stand here behind the menace. What do you think here when you look at this fight relative to odds?
Yeah, I mean, I like Michael Johnson here as a favorite, but this is another fight that I probably won't even touch. This fight and the first fight of the night, I don't know that I'll touch this, man. I can't trust Michael Johnson as a 2-1 favorite, but I think this is a good matchup for him. I think KO or decision, he gets it done.
Yeah. So I mentioned this last week, and funny enough, neither of my hedges hit, but the original bet did. I talked about, I feel like Clay Guida by points last week gave me free units to play with because that was the only way he could win. Crone Gracie by sub, similarly, I thought it was the only way he could win. I think you can do whatever you want with Michael Johnson here if you just play his Azaitar round 1 knockout plus 800. That's the only way he can win, in my opinion, is by staunching Johnson quickly because he's got a bad gas tank. We've only seen him win in UFC by round 1. And as this fight progresses and some of that knockout power wears off with fatigue, he's a really inefficient striker. He's actually quite bad at it. So I prefer Johnson. I've always thought his boxing was underrated. Maybe the chin concern's a little bit overblown. The only guy that's got him at 155 recently was Carlos Diego Ferreira, right? Got him in the second round in that fight that MJ was arguably winning. I actually feel okay about the chin relative to what Azaitar is shown. Azaitar's knockouts are Kama Worthy, guy who fought at 145 regionally, and then Timu Paklin, which I barely remember from a total yesteryear of UFC. So does he have the power to actually put Johnson away? I'm not entirely sure. When I think MJ is going to put numbers out there, I actually was kind of leaning maybe we look at round 2-3 KO for Johnson in this spot. Just from when Azaitar gets tired. I don't know what those looks like. Plus 650 for round 2, plus 1100 for round 3. Both those by knockout specifically.
I like that.
I think Azaitar is gonna gas if he doesn't get the finish. So this fight probably has to be favored to not go the distance, right? Yeah, it's minus 215 to not go the distance. I think Azaitar early, Johnson late, and I think much more likely.
I like the 2-3 you just said.
I will be so sad if Azaitar ends up chinning Michael in the first round because he's not the better fighter. It's just he's on all sorts of good vitamins, and MJ's shown some chin issues in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the 2-3 KO prop for Johnson. I think I might sprinkle on that.
Yeah. I'm going to play all of them. I'll play Azaitar round 1 at 8-1, and then the Johnson ones after for much larger stake. But I feel a fight ends KO here. Probably not a bad look either. No submission danger really on either side. So let's see. Do we have a finishing? How will fight end? Knockout is minus 160. So knockout minus 160.
Wow.
Interesting. There's such heavy plus money when overwhelmingly odds makers are saying, "Hey, there's going to be a knockout here." It's weird.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. So why don't we move forward here? We'll bookmark that. Johnson, by the way, if we were going to look at him by knockout in the cycle, bro, which kind of risky, and I don't think we'd want to do it. Plus 150 by KO, so it's not even a very good number either.
Yeah.
maybe we'll look elsewhere for the cycle. But that could even include here, which is the opener of the main card here, the sixth fight up on the card, sixth from the bottom, I should say. Navajo Sterling taking on Tuco Tokos. I know Tokos is your guy. He trains there in South Florida. UFC debut didn't go very well for Tuco. Umar C ended up taking him down, submitting him in the first round. But now he's got a guy coming off the Contender Series who hasn't proved a ton to this point. I mean, Navajo Sterling did get a second round KO on the show of a guy that, gosh, his name is spacing me. He trains right here in Inglewood, Colorado.
Philip Latu.
Yeah, Latu. Thank you. I'm sorry. I can't believe I spaced that guy's name when he's a local guy for where I used to live. But Sterling, a city kickboxing guy. Overwhelmingly, the odds you look here, maybe it's a Contender Series setup spot, which we've seen time and time again. But Maddie, what do you think about this fight? Since you're maybe the most pro Tuco Tokos guy that I could talk to, you were even telling me about him before Umar C fights. So, what do you think of your guy Tuco here? Do you think he's worth a dog shot?
I think he's worth a submission shot here. It's 24-1.
It's a long number.
Against a kickboxing guy. I mean, everyone I talk to tells me his grappling's pretty good. I mean, I know he got put away by submission in that first round, but Omar is he's a good dude. Like, he's a tough guy. He didn't really. I think he kind of underestimated. He even told me after that fight, he was like, I didn't think he was going to sub me like that, and he kind of just gave it up. But I think this is finally a spot where he's like had the camp, and I mean, he's. What's he, a 5-1 dog now?
Yeah, he's almost 5-1.
Jesus. Yeah, I think you have to go dog or pass here if you're going to go money line. I can't believe that submission's plus 2,400.
Yeah, I will say I think there's a point of value there because if Tokos is going to win this fight, I think it's by early sub. So I don't know why that's the longest outcome of this fight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Sterling's a city kickboxing guy. We really didn't see any grappling in the debut. And like you said, Tokos regionally, he had a couple of fights in Bellator. Really, he is a pretty good grappler. And that's what he does best. So it's weird to me. So that means round one sub, if I wanted to hedge again, which I've started to do, trying to take, is 50-1. Tokos rounds one sub is 50-1. Geez, why not throw like a half of a tenth of a unit on that and just hedge out of whatever I want to do with Sterling? But look, Sterling's plus 185 to win in round one. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, plus 185 to win in round one, plus 400 to win in round two. Submission is so long for Navajo at this point that why not just take the round props instead? Because it seems so unlikely. It does seem like a round one KO sort of Contender Series setup spot, but honestly, what's the total in this fight? So under 1.5 rounds is plus 110. That's kind of intriguing when I know Sterling went to the second round.
Maybe the main card, by the way. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it is. It opens the main card. There's 6 fights on the main card, oddly enough. So
yeah, the over 1.5 is minus 138. Under 1.5 is plus 110.
I kind of want to play that under.
Yeah.
Because like, what is Sterling? I mean, Sterling under 1.5, just that specific like same game parlay type of thing is plus 122. Why would I not just play the under instead of Sterling under? Yeah. I might as well take Tuco in here for a couple pennies, and he's a good grappler. Maybe he gets his back. Maybe he's able to submit him. We've seen some wild upsets this year. I don't think this one will be crazy just because we know so little about Sterling. Borderline irresponsible, I think, to play his money line here at this price when most of his equity comes via knockout. I'm
taking a dog shot here, bro. I have to.
As long as we keep it far away from the cycle, I understand it because now this
line ain't going anywhere near the cycle. But I'm gonna take a dog money line and sub sprinkle here.
Yeah, knowing our luck, dude, we'd put Sterling KO minus 160 in the cycle, and it ended up being a club and sub or something. We would just be asking for trouble.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, our next 2 legs have to be decent numbers because we have our first legs plus 115.
Yeah,
that's probably will be our first leg. We haven't officially decided, but
yeah. I'm taking a look. I want to make sure one of the fights we missed on the prelims. I don't know if we were missing a slide or what for it, but Joel Alvarez, Drakkar Klose. We don't have that one. We didn't load that one up, and that's a very important one that I wanted to talk to you about. So, dang.
Maybe Mike can just that fight on the
Yeah,
screen.
we'll have Mike throw it up on the screen for us so we can talk about it before we go much further, because that was a fight I really wanted to ask you about. A couple of lightweight vets I was able to model. We'll have Mike throw it up on the screen as we start talking about it here. But Alvarez, as it sits right now on FanDuel, bro, is minus 440. Klose coming back at plus 310. I know you're a big Joel Alvarez guy. We talked about that war between him and Elvis Brenner beforehand. You loved Alvarez's decision in that fight, and it did cash the over. It was close.
What was it? 2 minutes left in the fight when he finished him.
Yeah, and you totally right, Reed.
I don't know that Drakkar Klose can survive this fight. You can get Alvarez inside the distance at minus 160.
Wow, interesting that it's minus 160. My model has a specific statement that I was hoping for a better number, but I really was going to contemplate this fight in the cycle with you, because weirdly enough, I don't love a lot of submissions on this card. I've got Alvarez by sub at 21%, and a knockout is the longer number here for Alvarez, but I see Klose as a guy that hasn't been KO'd in UFC. Alvarez 1.2 submission attempts per 15 minutes.
Neil didn't KO him?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot the video KO. It came on that back fist, if you recall. So, yeah, you're right. He has been finished before. Were you looking at knockout more so than sub here?
I think they're pretty equal outcomes, honestly, and you get the better number on the knockout. Let me see here.
Model agrees. Pretty equal.
Yeah, I mean, you get plus 280 on the knockout for Alvarez.
Yeah. That submission number coming in so low is a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Alvarez is legit, bro. I'm telling you right now, I hate it because I actually like Drakkar Klose a lot.
Yeah.
But I have to take my bias out of the equation here. It is crazy that Alvarez 17 submissions professionally, 0 losses sub.
Huge tendency from Alvarez. We've seen him jump on guillotines in the past, and he got a standing KO Brenner, but Brenner is a shoot box guy, was always going to be a really tough sub. You and I were fading the sub in his last fight. Yeah. I feel like he can get close, and Klose averages over 5 takedown attempts per 15 minutes. I feel like Alvarez is going to get a gilly in this fight. I feel like he's a front jump.
And he's not going to survive that gilly attempt. He ain't getting it.
Yeah. When we see subs this low, man, it scares the dickens out of me to fade them.
Right. No, I agree. I'm gonna leave this. I'm down to leave this fight out of the cycle, but I think you guys might see a pretty sizable inside the distance play for me here.
Yeah,
on Joe Alvarez. I don't hate the minus 160 number whatsoever. I think he has 15 minutes to do it. I think that's a very cheap number, if anything.
Right. I agree with you. It's kind of a cheap. Maybe
that's how this guy went the distance, bro. He went the distance against Demir back in 2019. Since then, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight finishes.
Yeah,
7 if you include him losing to Sarukian by ground and pound. I just don't see a world where Joe Alvarez doesn't get a finish here. Minus 160, I think, is a phenomenal number.
Yeah, and that might be even when I bookmark for a potential safe parlay. But Klose, by the way, has not gone the distance 3 of his last 5 as well, which is a reversal from his early career trend, bro. In his first 6 fights, he went the distance, but now Klose has not been the distance in his last 5. So I think that makes sense as he's aging.
He's also never been subbed, which is interesting, you know. Mm-hmm. That KO number at plus 280 feels right to me.
I prefer sub, and even though my model has KO a slight favorite, I think anecdotally here, I have a hard time going away from Alvarez's tendencies. Maybe it is a spot where you just look toward inside the distance because it's a toughie, but we'll circle back on this, Maddie. I think this is an interesting fight because if we end up not going sub here, which is very plausible at that number, the submission prop that we put in the cycle might be a little tough. We'll see where you and I might be aligned later in this fight. But why don't we move forward here? We'll take a look at some of these rest of the main cards as we kind of round out a cycle parlay, look at different opportunities and things like that. Here's a fight that I'm nominating. I think there's 1 of 2 fights that I could point at as fight of the night. This is one of them here between Daniel Marcos and Adrian Yanez. 135 sluggers, man. Like, these guys do not really partake in boring fights. It is all action all the time. I think Yanez is must-see TV every time he's in the octagon, for better or worse. And this is a great fight to have on the main card. Marcos minus 205 here, which is a little interesting as far as the guy with less experience is significantly favored, but we've seen Yanez lose to Rob Font. We've seen him lose to Jonathan Martinez here. Where do you stand on this betting line is now? Because I would agree that I think Marcos should be favored, but we can get into semantics about the number.
No, I agree. He should be favored too. I mean, the guy's undefeated. You have to give him the respect.
Yep.
Yanez is 5 losses professionally. He's also not great when it goes the distance. He's 4-3 on the scorecards. Well, his knockout power and his boxing, I think, is as good as anyone in the division.
Agreed.
Problem is, people are a little more versatile to him, like the leg kicks or the grappling. And I think he starts to struggle a little bit. But I don't know about Daniel Marcos, man. I think he's a little overvalued just based off of his record and resume. I mean, how do you feel about his kicks and his leg kicks? Because, if it's a straight boxing match and, Marcos doesn't have any submission wins, I mean, I kind of lean Yanez here.
Yeah, I think this number is a tad wide, really, because when you look at Marcos, Marcos landed just 6 leg kicks in his last fight against John Castaneda. Before that, 19 leg kicks against Aori Qilong, so maybe something he deploys differently in different matchups. I just feel like Yanez, that Jonathan Martinez result is one that is hard to replicate. Don't you go back to the lab and immediately work on that leg kick defense when that sort of thing happens? And you rarely see fighters routinely get their legs chopped up. You know what I mean? Especially in these lower divisions where that's how Yanez is going to get attacked. Because if somebody's striking at distance with him, they're going to be trying to be kicking because they don't want to match hand speed with him in the pocket because their lights are probably going to go out. You know what I mean? So it's I sort of trust the improvements from Yanez, and I almost feel like this is a buy low spot for him because he's lost to a couple of killers. Whereas Marcos, to me, is fighting guys that were more so all-rounded grappling threats. He hasn't really stood with someone I think that can match him skill for skill there in a different way. I've got Marcos minus 140 here, but the biggest angle that I wanted to play, I've got fight ends knockout 68% of the time. I love fight ends knockout in this fight, one way or another. Maybe it's Yanez with the leg kicks. He's got a huge knockdown rate. I love KO here, and actually one of the things I had circles was potentially Yanez KO for the cycle.
I know. I really like that because I've made a lot of money off of Yanez KOs too. I ate huge on his last fight by knockout, and then I made a fortune on the Tony Kelly fight by knockout.
Right.
And I did it. I wasn't really willing to bet on Yanez against Martinez because I knew how good Jonathan Martinez was. I don't remember what I did in that Rob Font fight. Rob Font Yanez.
I was on Font in that fight. I do remember. And I was on Martinez against Yanez as well. My Yanez sniffer's been okay because I mean, Salvador in his last fight was a former flyweight moving up. Vinicius was the biggest underdog on the card in that fight. So
yeah.
It's interesting because Yanez has really only been knocking out bums, but at the same time, this is going to be blasphemous. Marcos' resume, I'm not saying his skill set, his resume is not free of me saying that there's no chance that he couldn't be a bum because his level of competition has just been so bad. And the Castaneda matchup was perfect for him. He could defend the takedowns. Castaneda's really limited at distance. So I really feel like Daniel's a little bit overvalued in this spot. It's Yanez or pass for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Let's come back to it.
We'll bookmark it.
I think the KO is definitely live, though.
Yeah, we'll bookmark it. I really do. I think that it's weird to me. Marcos is plus 200 by KO. Yanez is plus 420. If one of those guys is more likely to knock out the other, I almost feel like it is Adrian, where Marcos has more decision equity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think if you decision.
So I kind of feel like the market got that backwards and wrongs, and that was my thesis for taking Hamzat some while ago. Is because I think
these odds are wrong. By the way, the odds are messed up.
Oh, yep, we got him flipped. That's okay, though. We can use common sense because Vitor Petrino is actually the minus 330 favorite here over the veteran, the Hanyak, Dustin Jacoby, ranked light heavyweight matchup here. I think this is a darn good scrap here. Petrino's a guy that I really love as a prospect. Jacoby is a guy that who could forget how he cashed just KO1 against Kennedy and Zechiku before.
12-1. I was on a cruise ship watching the fights on my iPad.
Yeah.
Dustin Jacoby came through round 1 knockout, 12-1.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what here. I think my boy's being disrespected a little bit by the odds makers.
Your boy Jacoby being.
Jacoby, yes.
Proceed. Make your case. Make your case.
Yeah, I mean, look, Vitor Petrino is still – there's a lot to be desired with his striking. Like, he's big, he's powerful. He looks like the fucking Terminator. Like, he looks like a dude that, like, in a movie would come to kill you. Like, that's what he looks like. You know, but then Dustin Jacoby is a much cleaner striker. I just feel like when he fought Dominic Reyes, he kind of didn't respect Reyes. He's like, this dude's been knocked out 4 straight times. I'm going to come forward and put him away. And he kind of just – you know, he kind of rushed it, right? I think he gets back to his old self here, and he just uses kickboxing. And you know, he's got to stay away from. He did not want Petrino on top of you. Like he's got to be careful there. But I think he's being disrespected. I think this fight is much closer to a pick'em than it is plus 240 for him as a dog. So I got to lean Dustin Jacoby here from a pure value standpoint.
Maddie, I'm with you. And I think it was another reason why I had this one circled as a potential cycle spot, because Jacoby, do you feel like Dustin Jacoby's chinny? I agree with you that I think he rushed it and he made a mistake, but I don't feel like in general Jacoby's a very chinny guy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a couple of guys with really elite power ended up chinning him, but you forget he went all 15 minutes, no drops against Khalil Roundtree. He went all 15 minutes, no drop against Oleg Shaychuk. Like these are some of the guys with the highest knockdown rates in their particular divisions, right? I actually don't really feel confident that Petrino, I could label him as a guy with elite power yet. He really wrestled Tyson Pedro for 15 minutes, and he almost kind of looked lost at distance against Anthony Smith, and he ended up shooting into a really bad guillotine and ended up losing the fight as a huge favorite, right? Like, so yeah. I think the key word, as I said, I love Petrino as a prospect. If I could get a ticket, maybe like 4 to 5 to 1 on him to be champion someday, I might really have to think about it. But as far as like a finished product right here, right now, I actually don't feel comfortable in his submission skills. Like his corner was walking him through how to submit Prachnio. It was an aggravating watch.
I was so mad. I was at that fight live, and I needed him by decision, and he subbed him in the 3rd round. But I think it's fair to say Jacoby's the best striker he's fought.
Agreed. 100%.
I mean,
not even close.
Modestas Bukauskas, Tyson Pedro in a retirement fight. Rodolfo Bellato, that was back in Contender Series. He got a round 2. I think that was his most impressive performance, was that knockout. That or the Bukauskas.
Yeah. Even then, Bellato hasn't really proved a lot. So it's like Justin Jacoby now is a guy that went 15 minutes. And you and I were big on Jacoby against Roundtree. I still think he won the fight. And that's the level of striking that Jacoby brings to the table. He's still working with Factory X. I love Jacoby points plus 500. It's the old gloves, or the new gloves, if you will. The gloves they're not going to use anymore this weekend. This is the final card with them, if you're a believer in that superstition. But I like Jacoby.
By points?
Yeah, probably the most responsible way to bet him, though, is a point spread type of environment, because I think if this is a close decision, it's going to go to the guy that's the prospect. Whether it's it's probably a wrestling versus striking thing, but if it's a close decision, there's human tendency behind this. Overwhelmingly, these judges are influenced by betting odds. They're right on the side of the octagon. And it's like, well, if it's a close round, maybe it was the favorite. Because I just don't want to make a mistake and lead to a huge upset because the round was close. So I think Jacoby point spread is my favorite way to bet him here, but I think he can pull the upset for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you don't think the KO is plus 650 for Jacoby?
You think he can put Petrino out?
I think it's possible.
Not a very high knockdown rate, just 0.55%. I think that's why I'm showing it sub 10% in my model for this fight, is that I don't see Jacoby as a guy that has a ton of power. And Zechiku was very chinny at 205. I don't feel that about Petrino at all.
Yeah. Yeah. The decision's what? What did you say? What? Plus 500. Wow, that is a good number.
500, and that's like why I was thinking maybe if we went shorter on the KO sub legs, then maybe we think about Jacoby decision instead of Woodson just based on the number. But I love both of those props for different reasons, Woodson and Jacoby. So when we build, we'll really have to think about what adds the most value to what we want to do.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. come back to that one.
This is the fight. I like when I say I think it's going to be a good week for you and me. I was not surprised at all to model Jacoby showing value there. But
Yeah.
let's move on here to this flyweight clash, ranked flyweight clash. That I think is a very intriguing fight here between Manel Kopp and Bruno Bulldog Silva. Silva coming off that come from behind win over Cody Durden. Manel Kopp ended up losing a very tight, sort of inactive decision where you remember they had the fight at weigh-ins, Makayev and Kopp, and we're like, oh, this fight is going to be all action all the time. And they landed maybe 4 significant strikes in the first round. It was the most underwhelming performance of the year, perhaps. But Kopp, a prohibitive favorite. I think a lot of people look at him as a dark horse title contender in this division, even though he's got some close losses. Bruno Silva, a little bit more of a wild card. Not super active before this year, had some injuries, but now the Durden fight certainly looks even more impressive when you see how Josh Van could not put away Cody Durden in 15 minutes last week. So really powerful guys. What do you think about this matchup?
So I'm hoping I can sell you on a KO leg for the cycle here. But
Okay.
I like Manel Kopp by knockout at plus 280. I really do. And I'll tell you why. Like Bruno Silva, he is tough and he's durable. But if you go back and watch that Cody Durden fight, he was seconds away from getting a standing TKO, and then he shot that takedown, and then he ends up getting caught. And I look at Manel Kopp's recent fights, like who did he fight? The Brazilian, the shooter box guy.
Dos Santos, right?
Yes, like that fight, dude. He looked great, but that dude just, he's just not going to go away.
Sure.
I do think that Manel Kopp could get a standing TKO here. I really do. I like the number at plus 280 here. I mean, Kopp has a few knockouts in this division. I think this is a good spot because he's coming off of some of these decision wins. I think this is a good spot for him to get one, especially because he's trying to make a title push here. If he puts away Bruno Silva on the feet, I think he's right there to do it.
I'm actually, I knew this was maybe going to be our biggest point of contention. I'm on the other side here. I think Manel Kopp is one of the most overvalued guys. Every time I plug him through my model, every time I hear about him talk and hear about his fights, like Kopp is much more sizzle than substance. I think it's a discrepancy that you see from doing this from an analytical perspective too. I see his skills as well. It doesn't always translate to the octagon though. It's interesting you feel like Silva's a little bit chinny. Both of these guys have really great striking defense, but one of my model's favorite violence bets is this fight right here. I think it's actually plus money to not go the distance. And I'm thinking to myself, these guys are two of the most powerful punchers at all of flyweight. It's plus 130 to not go the distance. I love that bet. As an angle here, I've got it modeled 68.9% of the time not going the distance. So from a starting standpoint, I agree with you in theory. I think Kopp knockout, it might be a tinge undervalued, but I've actually got Silva a little bit more likely to score a knockout here than Kopp, believe it or not. That's how, with respect to Silva's 2.72% knockdown rate, he was the first guy to ever drop Tyson Nam. I don't think it's crazy that he drops Kopp here, but either way, I think this one is one you could bet under 1.5 rounds. You could bet fight doesn't go the distance because these guys are supremely powerful. There's a little bit of submission danger on both sides, but not a ton. Like, I like violence here, and I think it's going to be closer than these odds indicate as far as who ends up winning it. I have Kopp just minus 135 here, so I find it difficult to bet on Kopp in this situation, and Silva's a guy that's been very kind to me, so I think we're a little split.
I love Manel Kopp by knockout. We're definitely very split on this one. I mean, he knocked out Kai Asakura in round 1 back in 2019. Knocks out Odi Osborne, knocks out Zumagulov, knocks out.
None of those are impressive to me.
I get it, but I'm just saying at plus 280 here, it's more about that combined with the eye test of what I just saw in the Cody Durden fight. Cody Durden could have knocked out Bruno Silva in that last fight. He literally, his muscle memory made him shoot a takedown. He had Bruno Silva up against the cage. Go watch round 2 of that fight.
I'll have to.
Silva up against the cage, and he could have got a TKO win. And I think this is a big spot for Manel Kopp to get a knockout. So I really like this, especially because the Durden, it didn't age well after this past weekend too. I think Manel Kopp's going to be a level above him on the feet here against Bruno Silva. So I'm going to put this on my official card, but we can skip it for the cycle since we're on opposite sides.
Yeah, that's so interesting, Maddie, because I feel like I don't think it's crazy to say that both Cody Durden and Josh Van are better than Manel Kopp. based on what he's put out there as far as his resume, Cop is a guy that he wins all of these fans on film, bro. He never translates it to the points. There's never a convincing Manel Cop result in the fight that matters. I mean, he could knock out Jalgis Jumagulov in the first round as many times as he wants. This would be his most impressive win as far as an inside the distance win by a mile. When I look at a guy that went the distance with David Dvorak, and I'm sure both of these guys have improved a lot since some of those results a few years ago. But you like Cody. I like Cody. I feel like that win by Silva was incredibly impressive, even though he had to overcome some adversity.
Yeah. I mean, David Dvorak went to decision with Mateus Nicolau and Steve Erceg.
Yeah. So did Cop.
Right. That's what I'm saying is that's not, not knocking out David doesn't matter to me. I'm just telling you what I saw out of Bruno Silva's last fight. I think that's the biggest reason why I'm on this number.
I get it. He's 34 at flyweight too, which is not a good thing. You don't want to be on that side of your 30s at 125. So maybe Silva ends up. He's fought some really light competition as well in his wins. They're almost sort of a mirror match of each other in a way. Like I almost wonder if Silva might wrestle in this fight. I don't think it's a non-zero chance that he does. He landed 4 takedowns against Khabib's guy, Tahir Lembekov. I find this stylistic matchup very interesting, and to me, it's sort of a come-to-Jesus moment about whether I'm right or wrong against Miguel Cop. I don't feel strongly enough to lay the hammer on Bruno Silva here, but when I look at the betting odds, it doesn't really seem to match a lot of the stuff I look at.
Yeah. Hayden said is Cop sub at plus 1,600 live. Silva went the distance with Ulanbekov, right?
Yeah.
That's the only reason I can't take it. I'm so high on that guy's submission ability.
This fight feels weird. I wouldn't write anything off.
I actually made the decision. The new gloves are now the old gloves.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Wow.
Shout out our boy Hey Gloves getting the gloves turned around. This is the last card with those quote unquote new gloves because they'll go to they started making the old UFC gloves again for next year and beyond. So maybe I'll owe Hayden something if this fight ends up. Do you like this fight to not go the distance, or do you think there is a decision outcome here?
I don't see Manel Cop getting put away. So I would just bet his KO. Has he ever been finished? Okay, he's been subbed twice, but he's never been knocked out.
Yeah.
He's 11 knockouts to 0 losses. Muhammad Makayev couldn't put him away. And he's never been knocked out. I just don't see Bruno Silva being able to put him away.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I was very surprised by Silva's knockdown rate and some of the power he's shown so far. So we'll have to just see how it goes. That's the only way we can line him up. Flyweight's such a close, competitive division. And speaking of close and competitive decisions, why don't we move on to the main event and the man that I'd argue this card is built around? That is a Tampa, Florida native, Billy Quarantillo taking on Cub Swanson in an absolute banger of a co-main event. This is a co-main event for UFC fans. I think we all love both of these guys, so it's almost kind of tough to pick against them. Billy Q minus 172 on FanDuel, Cub Swanson coming back at plus 134. Maddie, your initial reaction to that betting line and kind of the angle that you think this fight's going to take place.
I'm just looking at the typology of Cub Swanson. He's got quite a few amount of submission losses here, bro.
Interesting. Okay.
Moicano submitted him in round 1. Yeah, this is a tough fight. It's a tough fight for me. I mean, Billy Q, he hasn't done a lot recently. He got got by Zalal, got put away by Barboza. Damon Jackson wasn't able to finish him. Would have liked to see him finish there. Oh my God, give me 10 seconds. I got someone at my door, bro.
That's okay. Somebody's trying to solicit something out of Maddie, but I think this is an intriguing fight. It's weird he said submission there. I've got it 8%, so not super high, but do you really think that Quarantillo could sub Swanson? He's shown a little bit of that tendency, 1.1 attempts per 15 minutes.
I think it's what's the number?
That's a great question.
Yeah, let me take a look. It's plus 650. Billy Q by sub.
Weird.
Points at Billy Q by decision is the most likely outcome at plus 250.
Okay, that part I buy. And then Billy KO 3-1, Swanson points plus 310, Swanson KO plus 440.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised at how well Cub has hung on into his 40s, man. Like that fight with Andre Fili was very close. And I say this probably backing Billy Q here. I've got him minus 140. I think my favorite bet in this fight, you can do it with FanDuel's same game parlay feature. I like Quarantillo to win after round 1. So you do that with his money line and then fight to start round 2. Those two together plus 106. I think it's an awesome bet because it combines like Billy late TKO with also Billy on the cards at plus money. To me, that's how he's going to end up winning. I think Swanson has most of the round 1 equity in this fight. Billy's just not a super powerful puncher, and we saw him go out to a knee to Edson Barboza. Don't hold the Yusuf Zalal result against him a whole lot because Yusuf is just younger, faster. We've seen how dangerous he's looked in recent fights. I love Billy after round 1 here by whichever way you can get him. I think it's a good angle when I've got him a modest favorite here.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
Yeah,
did you have anything circled for the cycle here?
Nah, I mean, I kind of lean Billy Q by decision, but I don't like it more than
Woodson.
Woodson. I'm pretty set on Woodson by decision.
I'm good with that as well because it gives us a little creativity, and I feel as good about that as I do Jacoby, and then I would put Billy. I don't even know how much I love Billy points versus knockout at a longer number because I just feel like this is him late. I don't really have a good sense of whether I prefer one or the other. A late TKO. What does Billy TKO or just Billy round 2-3 in general pays? It's set plus 750 and plus 1,000. I think I'm gonna have to sprinkle those.
Yeah, plus 750 round 2, plus 1,000 round 3. It's not
Billy's
bad.
a menace. He's a menace when he gets rolling downhill. He destroyed Mowgli Benitez. He got a second round KO of Alexander Hernandez, just drowned him alive. I just wonder if Cub at 41 years old can keep up when he hasn't landed over 80 significant strikes in like 5 years.
Yeah, all of Billy's Q's finishes are pretty much round 2, 3.
Yeah, he's just not a super powerful dude, but he's just a mounting storm.
Yeah, I like that. I'm down to sprinkle those on my card for sure.
Cool. But why don't we move on? And it's to the main event of the evening here. It is an. I always forgot we have a great producer that has that timestamp here, but it's the main event. Colby Covington, Joaquin Buckley. I've actually seen some great traffic in our Discord. By the way, if you haven't joined the Discord, Home of Fight Discord, we have great discussion. You have premium picks in there, all sorts of fun stuff. Home of Fight Discord, it's in the episode description of every one of these that we do on Maddie's YouTube pages. We got loaded up here. Yeah. I'm confused what we have loaded up here. Is this a new Home of Fight?
That's the website, yeah.
Some stuff cooking, yeah. So you got MMA weekly schedule here, some main event picks and previews. We'll have Home of Fight expert picks, which Maddie and I both submitted for as well. So a lot of good stuff going on. Homeoffight.com, right? That's where those folks can find it.
Yeah.
Okay, homeoffight.com. Want to make sure I got the URL correct. So thank you, Mike, for plugging that. But Maddie, Buckley minus 310 here. Somewhat prohibitive favorite against Colby, who we've really only seen him in title fights for what feels like a half decade at this point. Now all of a sudden he's stepping in on short notice to take Buckley in a main event. So could be a lot of different reasons he's doing it. Some of them not super advantageous for him. Do you think Buckley is a deserved favorite here, and how would you like to play him?
I think he is a deserved favorite, but man, this line keeps climbing.
Yeah.
And I just hope we don't get fooled here, you know? Like, if Colby truly was injured in the Leon Edwards fight, you know, and like from what everyone tells me, he does stay in the gym, you know, but he keeps to himself. Like, where is he even training right now?
Is he not at Masters anymore?
That's the question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that he is or isn't. I mean, I like Buckley in this fight. It's so funny because the Buckley KO is the most favorable outcome, or the most likely outcome at plus 155, and then Buckley by decision plus 180. I mean, it's tough. It's gonna if Colby can't get takedowns, Buckley's gonna come forward for 5 rounds, assuming he doesn't gas.
Yeah.
So I have to lean Buckley by KO here.
I think you phrased it perfectly. To me, this fight all comes down to hinges on whether or not Colby can get. I don't even know if it's takedowns, but just control time. If he can stall him early against the fence and really just start to wear on him, like the best Colby maybe has looked in his entire career was that Masvidal main event when those two guys, really didn't like each other, and he was all over Masvidal, didn't give him space to breathe for 25 minutes. It's just like does he have that left in him at 36 when we've only seen him a couple of times since then? And that Edwards fight, of course, Colby was going to have an excuse, right, as to why he didn't look very good in that fight, whatever it is. And you're right, we just don't know very much about him. How much has he been training? What does he want out of his UFC career at this point? Does he just need the money? Like, it was really weird that he stepped in on short notice here, and maybe my thoughts of doing too much research. I texted you. Gilbert Burns gave his opinion on this fight and said that he thought that maybe Buckley was kind of an easy fight for Covington because Buckley had so much issues with Logan Storley a few years ago. That was back in 2018 in Bellator. But like
years ago, 6 years ago.
It was 6 years ago.
I feel like Gilbert has a little negative bias against Buckley. I don't think he likes him that much. I don't know. I don't see the problem is the eye test shows me. I mean, Buckley isn't fighting 5-rounders.
Yeah.
Even the main event versus Ruzabev was that a main event?
That was a co-main.
Co-main, so it was a 3-rounder, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you look at every fight he's had recently, even go back to the Alex Morono fight, he's fresh at the end of round 2, the end of round 3, and his opponents look tired. The Andre Fialho fight, the Alex Morono fight, the Ruzabev fight, a lot of grappling that was played out in that fight too, and he's not getting tired. I think he's in the prime of his career, and Colby doesn't have a lot of finishing upside, so it's just like, how does Colby win? Buckley's never been submitted. I'm just like, how does Colby win? Is he really going to just put a pace on him for 5 rounds? I would argue that Buckley today is better than, better overall skill set than Jorge Masvidal in that fight when Colby was kind of like near his prime. So I can't keep doubting Joaquin Buckley. I like him by knockout or decision here. I do hate that his number keeps ballooning. I know Hayden has that big 7-unit play on him. He got a much better number, I think, like a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
I do like Buckley in this fight, but there's a lot of question marks about Colby at the same time, so we'll see.
Yeah, I feel great about how I modeled this fight. I've got Buckley KO plus 135, Covington a decision plus 195. I think those are the 2 most likely outcomes of the fight, is that Buckley sparks him at some point and is able to stuff the shots and Colby's at distance against his huge power, or Colby's able to get his takedowns and slowly break toward him. I think Covington round 4-5 decision is probably the only way you'd want to bet him if you do. And I don't have any action on this fight because I'm just kind of watching the line move, and it's getting to a point now where I think it would be Covington or pass. Loved Buckley more so at the number, like you said, that Hayjive was looking at, but I'm not necessarily sure if there's a whole lot here now. I was curious if you wanted to go here in the cycle or not, but it sounds like you kind of don't.
I mean, if we went any cycle here, I would go Buckley KO. I mean, Colby by decision is plus 380, so that is a good number for the cycle, but I would feel like I would so much if we took that. I don't like this fight for the cycle, but it would be cool to have it as the last leg of the cycle.
Yeah. We always try to prefer later, but you can't force anything. So, Maddie, why don't we get to building some parlays? I'll get my safe stuff out of the way. Wait, we got some parlays to make.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Let's start with your safe one. I think we got to really go back through this card because I think the only definitive leg we have right now is Sean Woodson by decision.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to build safe or cycle first?
Build your safe first.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking for the safe parlay, okay? Alvarez inside the distance minus 160.
Done.
Okay, I really like that. And by the way, I'm taking it on myself to get this turned around because we've had – by the way, the reason this lost at UFC 310 – Chiesa Griffin goes the distance, so Max didn't hang on, and that's why it didn't win. So I'm sick to my stomach.
Hey, if you would have took over 2.5, it would have won, right?
Yeah. Did it go over?
It was close. I can't remember.
Let's take a look. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I think it might have been like 2 minutes into the round.
Nope, it went under. It went under. So over 2.5 would have still lost. Thankfully.
Okay.
Maddie, you almost found a way to make me even more sick to my stomach, but all right, let's see what else maybe that.
What do you think? So, what do you think about Yanez Marquez ends by knockout with yeah?
Let's see what the odds on that are here.
That's minus 105. That's crazy.
That is crazy. So it's a slight underdog to points. It is my model's favorite bet of the week. So I think if we put those together, it's plus 220. I like that a lot. So Alvarez ITD and then Yanez Marcos ends KO. My only question to you is, what do you think about maybe Johnson as Vitor ends KO instead? I just can't see that one going all 15 minutes. Man, Vitor's a gas bag. And then let's see what how will fight ends. So knockouts minus 160 for that fight. So put those two together plus 165. That feels like a cycle. That feels like a safe parlay to me. Is Johnson as Vitor ends KO? Can you even think of another outcome? And maybe MJ points. But
MJ, yeah. I mean, fight to not go the distance minus 215 versus the fight to end by KO is minus 160.
Yeah. I just don't see any submission off it. Neither one of those guys have a career UFC submission attempt. I don't get the big discount for just going knockout instead.
That's true. Yeah.
So,
I like to, so it just depends how safe you want to make the parlay. But if you just did Alvarez inside the distance and those are both minus 160 legs, by the way. I kind of like
so
that.
it comes out to plus 164. I think I'm gonna do that, Maddie. I'm gonna, just because I could see Marcos points in the other fight. So I'm gonna make that the safe parlay and hopefully head into the holidays getting the slump out of the way. So Alvarez inside the distance and then Johnson as Vitor ends KO. I'll go ahead and send that screenshot over to Mike. And then you put those together, it's plus 164. I love that. Okay, Maddie, cycle time. Let's get down to business.
All right. Yeah, let's put Sean Woodson by decision as the first leg, or I guess it's be it as the second leg, which is fine. All right, so let's go through our submission options first and foremost. Okay, I think Joel Alvarez is one of them.
Okay.
I think Miranda.
I was going to say Maverick 6-1. I think was another one I had written down here. You floated Billy Q. I don't know if I'd want to commit to that. I think it's a little crazy. I mean, ostensibly you could think Lima, but like.
I was gonna say Lima too.
Yeah.
What's that number? Because our other legs might be really small numbers.
Yeah.
So it's not bad to have like a decent.
Lima sub is plus 650, so it's right there with Maverick, bro. I think maybe we keep. Do you like Maverick better than Lima?
No, because just women's MMA. I'd rather go. I'd rather look at. I like Lima by sub. I think that's mispriced. Miles Johns gave up around 3 sub. I think he's going to fatigue a little bit.
Gas a little bit, and Lima showed that tendency.
Hear me out here. What if we did I was going to say Lima sub, Woodson decision, and Buckley KO.
I just don't. So Colby has been historically Yanez. I really like Yanez if we move to KO. And why don't we try to get that one nailed down first, since I think we'll be between Lima and Maverick for the sub, right?
Or Alvarez. I mean, I do love Alvarez's subs, man.
Yeah. And then we'd go
plus
with
180. Plus 180. I mean, plus 180 against a guy who's never been subbed just sucks, but at the same time, it's like
it feels like that shit's hitting because of what you just said.
I think it's hitting, dude.
So can I tell you what I had that I thought was going to be the cycle that I texted you? I texted you on Tuesday. I said I think I've already got the cycle. Can I tell you what I thought it was going to be? Yeah. Woodson decision, Alvarez sub, Yanez KO. That's what I thought it was going to be on Tuesday.
Yeah. Wait, say it again.
Woodson decision.
Yeah.
Alvarez sub, Yanez KO.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be able to talk you into Yanez KO.
I do. No, I don't hate it at all.
I feel like Klose shoots into a sub in this fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually like Alvarez sub more than the Yanez KO leg.
Well, so what are some other lengthier KOs? We talked about Jacoby. Johnson at plus 150, I just don't think is a big enough number when I think he could get slept.
Yeah.
Johnson could get slept round 1.
What about Taveras?
I really like Taveras a lot.
Plus
Is
330 KO. I feel like that's just sitting there waiting for us to take it.
what is Grant? Grant hasn't been KO'd in UFC, but he is 38.
I thought he did
Striking
once.
defense.
Didn't he once?
No, I was pretty sure I had that written down before the show that I thought he hadn't been KO'd yet. Yeah, he's been subbed 3 times, but he hasn't been KO'd in UFC at least. I don't know about regionally.
No, he's never been KO'd. Yeah. Yeah, and he went up against Cheeto, Yanez, Marcos. Man, that's asking for a lot from Taveras, bro.
It is, especially when he didn't KO Saidi in his debut.
Especially,
Even when he didn't had his hands going.
Yeah, bro. I don't think we can do it. I think that's. I'm struggling. Hold on. See, it was up to me. I would go cop KO for sure, but I know you're not with that.
One other alternative I was going to say is that you and I came to a consensus round 2-3 KO with Billy. I feel like this is trending in a direction where can you imagine needing that TKO from Billy late in order to cash the cycle? Tampa guy in Tampa, crowd's going nuts. Could be electric.
Plus 300 too is right where we want to be.
Yeah, I mean, the low hanging fruit would be Sterling. It's minus 160, but if you're talking about a cycle, a long shot to win like $100,000, you'd have to put like $8,000 down because it's just not going to be very long.
I mean, Swanson's been put away by knockout 3 times. I mean, Giga just put away in round 1 in 2021. Martinez round 2.
Who you looking at? Cub?
Swanson.
Yeah. Cub has shown some issues. He cut down to 135. He's really shown some issues with kicks, which isn't really Billy's game. I mean, but at the end of the day, I think Cub is really going to be struggling late in this fight, even if it goes the distance, because he's just not put a lot of numbers out there. And Billy is a guy that when he gets downhill, the offense is flowing. And I don't think that we had someone suggest Jamey-Lyn Horth KO.
I know.
I mean, we had some people in chat tell us Gabriel Fernandez sub, and we didn't listen. So I never want to write off the people in the chat.
Yeah. What's Horth KO plus 1,800? It's funny because I looked at this card early on. I was like, I like a lot of knockouts, and now it's just somehow the knockout's the one we're struggling with.
Yeah, I think I talked to you out of Buckley and Cop, which like it's your side. I know the cycle is your baby, and we've compromised in spots before. Like, I'm not quite showing value in Buckley KO, but
Buckley knocks out Colby to cash the cycle. It's going to be electric.
And let me get this straight.
5 rounds against Buckley's power.
Yeah, let me get this straight. Colby is one of my least favorite UFC fighters. It is not a bias thing with me whatsoever.
Yeah.
I am just always skeptical.
The other problem is if we have
Colby
KO, if we have Buckley KO in there with Woodson and Alvarez, the number is going to suck.
Yeah.
Because all 3 legs are under 2-1.
It's the same problem we face with Navajo Sterling. Is that it's like, what are we doing? Like a safe parlay as a cycle? It's not. We want there to be some sort of a long shot element to this, right? Like even though we didn't get Jim Miller KO to cash, it was like we got a 4-1 price, felt it was undervalued, and I still love that read. Like those are the reads we're looking for.
Yeah.
I will say this. I think if Yanez wins, it is by KO. And otherwise he loses outright. Yeah,
I'm leaning towards Yanez at this point.
That was my initial gut from Tuesdays. Alvarez, Woodson, Yanez. That's what I was going to try something on.
Yeah.
Let me put it in and see what it pays.
Yeah. Mike, do me a favor. Add the submission in, and we're set on Alvarez.
Okay, I'm good with that.
So Alvarez would be the second leg?
Yes.
So, Mike, you're going to put Woodson at first base.
Yep.
And then you're going to put Alvarez probably at second base by sub. Well, maybe.
So if we put in Yanez, it is over 30-1, plus 30-30.
Yeah.
They'll build you a 30 for 30 on the cycle parlay that cashed at 30-30. How about that?
Yeah.
Chat, give us some feedback here. Which knockout? Which knockout? You can vote for anything you want. Buckley, Cop, Yanez. You can vote for any knockout on the board. Taveras, which of these ones you guys like?
The crazy thing is, all of our legs, it seems like we're like betting against something that's never happened. Like Marker's never been knocked out. Alvarez or Klose never been, or Drakkar Klose never been subbed.
Yeah, but so here's my argument against that. Last
Yeah.
week, Pantoja facing Asakura. Asakura had never been subbed as a pro. Pantoja's sub was the shortest outcome,
Right.
and
For
it
sure.
looked easy. You know what I mean?
Let's see debuting guy though.
Yeah, but he had all these pro fights and risen against UFC guys and had never been subbed. Guys like Horiguchi, guys like Cop. You know, he'd never been submitted, and there tend to be more submissions over in those specific MMA promotions. So
Yeah, for sure.
a lot of people, I mean, we're getting mixed. Bruno Cop to end KO. I wish we could do KO. Buckley's getting a lot of votes, bro. But the price just
we need the graphic, the baseball field graphic for that. So Woodson on first base by decision, Alvarez second base by sub. I don't know. I'm getting Adrian Yanez just isn't reliable to me against good competition. Like I love taking him against lower level guys.
Is Marcos great competition?
I think he's deserving enough to call him that. Yeah.
I've got Yanez KO plus 180 and a bulk of his win equity.
Wow, that is crazy. I'm almost leaning Billy Q, bro.
Could be electric. Let me
at his hometown. I might be down to go with that.
Let me run some numbers here. So
I think that's. I'm starting to feel good about it.
What is it? I've got it plus 340.
It's plus 300.
It's close. It's close.
Yeah, I mean he just got TK'd against Jonathan Martinez back in 2022. Problem is, that was a kick. Also, Billy Q could maybe sub him, and I would be sick. Oh, they're fucking calling me. I gotta leave this room. My checkouts right now.
Boy, the pressure's on. They're calling you and saying you got to get out of your hotel room. You got to check out. You got to build your cycle.
Yeah, I gotta get to the airport.
Should I go get a quarter and we just flip for it?
No. Yeah,
I'm good with Yanez or Quarantillo. I'm good with either one. So if you prefer Billy, let me put Billy in here and see what it pays. Because I love Billy mounting downhill damage against old guy. Yeah. So Billy would pay 23 to 1. Yanez pays about 30 to 1.
Yeah. Bro, I might have to decide later. I'm gonna be real. I might have to put it in with Manel Cop, bro. I'm gonna shoot myself if he gets it done, and that was the difference. That's like that was my favorite KO on the card. Do me a favor, bro. This is
your baby, man.
We're gonna lock this. We're gonna lock this cycle in by tomorrow. Do me a favor. Go rewatch the Durden Bruno Silva round 2.
I'm not changing my mind on that fight. Silva KO's under.
No, but just go watch it for me. All right, so there it is. Leg 3 is a question mark right now. Let's not rush it right now on the show. We got to come up with the third leg by tomorrow. We have plenty of time.
If you want to put Cop in there, you are the guy that bets $7,000 on this. It is not me. So if you want Cop in there, bro, it is your baby. I will root for you. And you put
Mike,
Cop in right now, dude.
You got to change the text to Alvarez. There we go. Okay. So we got 2 out of 3 right there. I want either Buckley.
Trust your gut, man. Cop plus 2.
What do you have Buckley KO like modeled at?
Plus 135.
So it has value.
What is it?
It's plus 155.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It is value. It's just short. I mean, it's going to be very short for the parlay, but you know, if you like Buckley.
Yeah, it would be a short cycle lay, but everybody wants to feel what win on the cycle, so it might not be the worst thing right now.
Plus 1435.
Oh, that is so short. It's funny because to the average person, that's a long parlay. Like that's a great number. To me, it's a short parlay, which is sad. I can see like a TKO, like a stand-in stoppage again for Colby. For Buckley versus Colby.
For Colby? Well, I'll tell you on my card. Oh, I was gonna say on my card, I'm gonna sprinkle Colby 4-5 TKO on my card. But you and I were split there, so
Yeah. Yeah, I like the fact that he's 5 rounds to do it. And honestly, the other thing, I think I'm kind of talking to myself in the Buckley here. I just like how his gas tank has looked late in fights. Like, he doesn't look tired at all late in round 2 and 3 against his last few fights. So we have Alvarez by sub plus 180, Buckley by KO plus 155, Woodson by decision.
I think it's a good hedge because to me the worst number on the board here, Buckley decision at plus 180, guy with the worst cardio. Colby really is either going to dictate the pace of the fight or he's probably going to be in deep shit, and he's aging considerably. So I'm not surprised to be showing value on KO just because I'm so much lower on decision. I got decision like plus 450, bro. And I don't see Buckley decision as a very reasonable outcome.
Yeah.
If you want to go with Cop, Matty, you do whatever you want with this cycle, bro. It is your cycle. If you want to go with Cop, your gut says Cop, go with Manel Cop, dude.
All right. Well, it's either going to be Buckley or Cop for everyone that's watching. So, Mike, if you can make 2 graphics, plus 1435 is this one. Put Buckley KO as the third leg.
Yep.
And then let's put Cop as the second. I want to see what the Cop KO does to the lay here. It's going to make a big
I had it.
It's gonna
it was like 21 to 1, I think, when I put it in here. I will be playing violence as my largest bet in that fight, so I will not be sad if Cop gets the KO. Plus 130 for that fight did not go the
plus
distance.
2187 with Cobb. I thought it would be more. All right. Well, we will decide. I got to get rolling to the airport.
Sounds good.
But I think it's been a good show. You know, we just got to figure out the KO leg. I feel good about those first 2 hit in, though.
Oh, they put it in there. If we do go Buckley, that's model approved, plus 1435. It's kind of a see one go through the hope cycle. But I like our picks in general on this card. I think we just need to decide. This is what it came down to last week. We had a cycle built that would have cashed. We just didn't end up putting the legs in there correctly, so we got to figure out really what we want to do here.
Yeah. Wait, which one was that?
Last week?
Yeah, because Nate lost out.
Well. Oh yeah, I guess you're right. Well, no, we could have gone Mitchell. One of our potential ones was Mitchell KO.
That's right. Yeah.
With you like Cyril Gunn by decision, and then we had Hooper sub in there too. So that would have been the one that cashed.
Agreed.
All righty, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us in 2024. We will see you on the other side of the holidays with a cycle laden gift. Hopefully, we can get you a cycle that'll cash pay for the gifts. Have a great day, guys.